Tandem USA-Togo, chaque année au mois de février, on observe le Black History Month. D'où vient cette célébration? Quels sont les repères dans l'histoire? Et quelle est la portée de cet événement? Pour en parler, Josita rencontre Peter Awute, chargé des affaires culturelles à l'ambassade des États-Unis, et c'est notre conversation en anglais de ce numéro de février de Tandem USA-Togo.
February is the shortest month from among the 12 of the modern calendar. However, each day of the month is dedicated to the history of black men and women who spent their lifetime in the U.S. willy-nilly. Peter Awute, who is cultural affairs specialist, will put us in the picture today. Who or what do we really celebrate in that very month of the calendar?
In February in general, we remember millions of people who were dragged away from their mother continent, Africa, and sent to the United States as slaves. We do celebrate famous black people who contributed to the blossoming of the U.S. society or who contributed to the improvement of the human society in various domains.
Where does the celebration originate from, and why the month of February?
We owe the celebration of Black History Month to a certain Dr. Carter G. Woodson. Blacks have been in America at least as far back as British colonial times, but it was not until the 20th century that they gained a notable presence in the history books. Dr. Woodson was born to parents who were former slaves. He spent his childhood working in the Kentucky coal mines and enrolled in high school at the age of 20. He then graduated within 2 years and later went on to earn a PhD from Harvard. Dr. Woodson was disturbed to find in his studies that history books largely ignore the black American population, and when sometimes blacks did figure into the picture, it was generally in ways that reflected the inferior social position they were assigned at the time. Woodson, who loved to act on his ambitions, decided to take on the challenge of writing black Americans into the nation's history. In 1926, he launched the first Negro History Week as an initiative to bring national attention to the contributions of black people throughout American history. He wanted to create an observance to recognize and honor the heritage and accomplishments of African Americans to American society. Woodson chose the second week of February for Negro History Week because it marks the birthdays of two men who greatly influenced the black American population. The first one was Frederick Douglass, and the other figure was Abraham Lincoln. The United States became independent in 1776. As part of the bicentennial of the country in 1976, the Negro History Week was expanded to a full month and became Black History Month. It is sometimes referred to as African American History Month.
Now we better understand the origins of the African American History Month. But you just said that the observance of the event in February was inspired by two key figures, Frederick Douglass and Abraham Lincoln. Some people may not know who they were.
Frederick Douglass was an African-American social reformer, an outstanding orator, writer, and statesman. He escaped from slavery, then he became a leader of the abolitionist movement. Douglass, in 1845, wrote Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass, an American slave, which became influential in its support for abolition. He participated in the American Anti-Slavery Society and wrote two more autobiographies, which covered events through and after the Civil War. After the Civil War, he became the first African-American nominated for vice president on the Equal Rights Party ticket. Douglass held multiple public offices, and he was a firm believer in the equality of all people, whether black, female, Native American, or recent immigrant. As for Abraham Lincoln, he was the 16th President of the United States, serving from March 1861 until his assassination in April 1865. He successfully led his country through the American Civil War, which was a great constitutional, military, and moral crisis, preserving the Union while putting an end to slavery and promoting economic and financial modernization. After opposing the expansion of slavery in the United States in his campaign debates and speeches, Lincoln secured the Republican nomination and was elected president in 1860. Before Lincoln took office in March, 7,000 slave states declared their secession and formed the Confederacy. When war began with the Confederate attack on Fort Sumter on April 12, 1861, Lincoln concentrated on both the military and political dimensions of the war effort, seeking to reunify the nation. He issued his Emancipation Proclamation in 1863 and promoted the passage of the 13th Amendment to the United States Constitution, abolishing slavery. His Gettysburg Address of 1863 became the most quoted speech in American history. It was a statement of America's dedication to the principles of nationalism, equal rights, liberty, and democracy. Lincoln has been consistently ranked by scholars as one of the 3 greatest U.S. presidents and the main emancipator of slaves.
Each Black History Month has a celebration theme. What is the topic of this year's observance?
The 2012 Black History Month theme is Black Women in American Culture and History. This topic is in honor of the efforts of women of African descent who have played various roles in helping to shape the U.S. These women have all enriched the U.S. through their leadership, patriotism, intellect, and artistic expression.
Were Black women as famous as Black men in the U.S. history? Of course, we know Rosa Parks, but who were the other famous women?
Well, it will take a book to talk about Black women who contributed to the greatness of the U.S. In the American history, only a few of the many accomplishments of Black women are common knowledge. Of course, you have Rosa Parks, who was at the origin of the civil rights movement led by MLK in the 60s. But you could add Coretta Scott King, Martin Luther King's wife. You could add Phyllis Whitley, who was the first African-American poet and first African-American woman to publish her writing. You could add Harriet Tubman, who was an abolitionist, humanitarian, and who was one of the initiators of the network of anti-slavery activists and safe houses known as the Underground Railroad. You could add Shirley Chisholm, the first Black woman elected to Congress in 1972. Still talking about contributions to the influence of the U.S. culture, the history belongs to days we left behind us, and we could not avoid singers and composers like Aretha Franklin and Ella Fitzgerald, actresses and entertainers like Oprah Winfrey and Halle Berry, who became the first Black woman to win an Oscar for a starring performance. Let's add Michelle Obama, the very first Black First Lady, Annie Neil Graham, who was the first Black female to enlist in the Marine Corps, Captain Vernice Armour, the U.S. Army's first Black female pilot, and its first female combat pilot. As I said it will take a book to talk about all of those famous and marvelous women who played a role in the U.S. history and culture.
Thank you, Peter Awute.
You're welcome.
C'était là Peter Awute, conseiller aux affaires culturelles de l'ambassade des États-Unis à Lomé, qui expliquait en anglais à Josita les origines du Black History Month, le mois de célébration de l'histoire des Africains-Américains. Ces Africains-Américains sont d'anciens esclaves ou descendants d'esclaves, mais qui ont contribué à l'essor de la société américaine par des actes de bravoure, des inventions ou par leur intellect. C'était donc notre traditionnelle conversation en anglais. Et maintenant, l'explication de quelques mots et expressions pour enrichir notre vocabulaire en anglais et améliorer notre compréhension de l'anglais oral. Et c'est avec Sonia.
Dès sa toute première question, Josita disait « Each day of February is dedicated to the history of Black men and women who spend their lifetime in the US willy-nilly ». L'expression qui intéresse ici est willy-nilly. W-I-L-L-Y-N-I-L-L-Y. Willy-nilly vient de willingly or not, c'est-à-dire de manière volontaire ou non. Willy-nilly veut dire de gré ou de force, bon gré, mal gré. Josita a aussi dit, Peter Awute will put us in the picture. To put someone in the picture signifie littéralement mettre quelqu'un sur la photo. En réalité, to put someone in the picture, c'est éclairer la lanterne de quelqu'un. Donner des détails sur quelque chose à cette personne, inclure quelqu'un dans l'histoire, le mettre au courant. Le contraire de to put someone in the picture, c'est to put someone out of the picture, c'est-à-dire mettre la personne sur la touche, l'exclure ou l'éliminer du jeu. Peter Awute, expliquant le pourquoi du Black History Month, dit « In February, we remember millions of people who were dragged away from their mother continent, Africa, and sent to the United States as slaves. To drag away, drag, D-R-A-G, et away comme A-W-A-Y, véhicule l'idée de la force brute. To drag away, c'est arracher et emmener loin. People were dragged away from Africa to the United States. Les gens ont été arrachés du continent africain pour l'Amérique. Peter Awute dit que ces gens qui ont été sevrés brutalement de leur continent ont des générations plus tard contribué à l'éclosion de la société américaine. L'interviewé exprime ici son idée en disant « They contributed to the blossoming of the US society. » Blossoming vient de blossom, B-L-O-S-S-O-M, qui exprime l'idée de la floraison, de l'épanouissement. Mr. Awute explique que l'idée de la célébration du Black History Month est née de l'initiative d'un certain Dr. Carter G. Woodson, un fils d'esclave qui, en février 1926, trouvant que les Noirs étaient presque absents des livres d'histoire des États-Unis, décida de lancer la semaine de l'histoire nègre, The Negro History Week. Woodson a choisi le mois de février parce qu'il comptait l'anniversaire de naissance de deux personnages qui avaient fortement influencé l'histoire des Africains-Américains, Frederick Douglass et Abraham Lincoln. Monsieur Awute parle ici de two figures. Figures qui s'écrit exactement comme figure au pluriel en français veut dire personnage clé. Chemin faisant, le Negro History Week a pris de l'importance et est donc passé d'une semaine de célébration à un mois entier, en devenant ainsi le Black History Month. C'était à l'occasion du bicentenaire des États-Unis en 1976. En anglais, bicentenaire se dit bicentennial, B-I-C-E-N-T-E-N-N-I-A-L. Josita a ensuite voulu en savoir un peu plus sur Lincoln et Douglas. Sachant bien qu'elle s'écarte un peu du sujet de l'entretien, elle annonce « Let's digress ». Digress, D-I-G-R-E-S-S, veut dire s'écarter de, s'éloigner de, digresser, comme on dit en français. Détaillant les faits de la vie du président Lincoln, l'interviewé rappelle qu'il a été surnommé le grand émancipateur des Noirs après son mémorable discours prononcé à Gettysburg, en Pennsylvanie, en 1863. Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, dit Peter Awute. Address, A-D-D-R-E-S-S, notez qu'il n'y a pas de E à la fin, signifie discours ou allocution. Une dernière chose devant le doute de Josita sur le nombre de femmes africaines-américaines célèbres, l'intervenant dit « It will take a book to talk about black women ». Il faudrait tout un livre pour parler des femmes africaines-américaines. En anglais, pour dire « il faut 6 mois pour assécher le terrain », on dira « It will take 6 months to drain the field ». Il faut des mesures concrètes pour résoudre la crise. It will take concrete steps to solve the crisis.
C'était donc là l'explication de quelques mots et expressions pour enrichir notre vocabulaire anglais et améliorer notre compréhension de l'anglais oral suite à la conversation de Josita et Peter Awute sur le Black History Month. Merci à Sonia pour cette explication.